Hi, I'm Dr. Kelly Starrett with H-Wave. We tend to think about H-Wave as a moving company, right? It's always about restoring motion or breaking tone or getting out of pain so that I can move my body. And so one of the things that's crucial to understand is that if I'm using this low frequency setting on my H-Wave, what I'm really doing is create a non-fatiguing muscle contraction that does a lot to reduce waste, move waste out of the body, and facilitate blood flow in. And we know that that's really one of the rate limiters to maximal human healing. I've got to be moving. And it's not an accident that we might, through evolution, have put the sewage system into the movement system, because traditionally, historically, we had to do a lot of movement just to feed ourselves, get up and down off the ground, find resources, et cetera, et cetera. So having muscle contraction then makes a lot of sense in terms of decongesting the body. There's a lot of other things that happen when we start to move more. We get outside, we see our neighbors, we start to decongest, we load our tissues. And so oftentimes when people begin a recovery after injury or surgery or trauma, it feels sort of overwhelming. Do I do pull-ups? Do I do rehab? Is it clamshells? Is it dead bugs? What do I do to start? And the first place we want to start is to walk. That walking is probably the safest and easiest thing to do in your body, and one of the fastest ways we can start to restore normal function. Now here at the Ready State, we don't consider walking exercise. I want to be clear about that. We think it's more important than exercise. We treat it like sleep. We treat it like eating fruits and vegetables and getting enough protein. We treat it like having important relationships. And ultimately, what we want to do is say, hey, I maybe have managed my knee congestion or OA, or I have broken some pain in my neck or back. Now I have a window of opportunity to move my body. And ultimately, we're trying to get everyone to this magic number of about 8,000 steps. And that 8,000 steps a day does a lot of things. Number one, it gives me sort of a 51% decrease in all-cause mortality and morbidity, which means if I can walk more, I'm likely to live longer and live better. We also know that it's important to just get that waste out of the body. We need to get sunshine, we need to load our tissues, and we need to create enough non-exercise activity fatigue that we actually fall asleep in the evening. And oftentimes when we're not moving very much because we're in pain or we've got injury or trauma or surgery, it's actually difficult enough for us to accumulate fatigue and actually fall asleep. We're not very sleepy. It's like having a kid on an airplane and then say, go to bed. That kid needs to run around a little bit. So what we'll begin to say is, hey, 8,000 steps seems daunting to me. But what we're going to try to do is say, hey, how can I move, especially after I've had a dose or a treatment? And for really a chronic or acute back pain, that might be, hey, I'm going to wall walk or walk on my counter, and I'm going to go around my counter 10 times. I'm going to do that 3 times a day. And tomorrow I'm going to go around my counter 11 times. And then I'm going to go out to the corner of my house and back. What I want us to do is begin to think about adding in as much movement and as much motion as we can to start signaling to the body that it's safe to move. One of the things that happens is that if I don't have any movement input, the only input my brain gets is a pain signal. And fortunately for us, that pain signaling pathway and movement pathway are the same pathways in the brain. And so if I'm moving, I'm less likely to sort of be overwhelmed by a pain or discomfort pathway signal to my brain. So again, that walking is an important way of sort of tamping down the sensitivity to what's going on in my body. What this does is this gives us a target where, hey, I'm going to walk as much as I can, reasonably based on what's going on, and that might be 500 steps today and 600 steps tomorrow. But we're going to start to build that back up, and that gives us a clear benchmark about returning to function. We're going to take lots of little walks. It doesn't have to be epic. I can use crutches. I can be outside. If it's only addressing some kind of injury or trauma or pain in the upper body, that makes it even easier for me. But it helps us to understand that this is a movement company, and our first order of business is to restore how much movement we can get in. And whatever that looks like for you, we're working towards that 8,000 steps.